Standing in the shadow of a medieval castle, it's impossible not to feel the weight of history pressing down on you. These towering fortresses were more than just symbols of power or defensive strongholds. They were intricate tapestries of secrets woven into every stone and archway. Imagine walking through their halls, where every step brings you closer to uncovering the hidden messages left behind by architects who saw their creations as more than mere buildings. These castles were designed to whisper secrets, to communicate in ways that only those in the know could understand. From the strategic placement of towers to the subtle symbolism carved into the walls, medieval architects transformed stone and mortar into a language of their own. Picture this: you're standing in a grand hall, sunlight streaming through narrow windows. The walls seem solid, impenetrable, but look closer, and you'll notice patterns, designs, even hidden passageways that tell a story far beyond what meets the eye. These castles were built not just to withstand siege but to speak, to convey messages of power, mystery, and even defiance. Every corridor, every chamber served a purpose beyond the obvious. The placement of a staircase, the angle of a window, the symbolism of a carving, all were deliberate choices, encoding secrets that only the initiated could decipher. It's as if the castle itself is alive, its stones holding whispers of the past, waiting for someone to listen. What if I told you that these architectural marvels were more than just fortresses? They were canvases for storytelling where every detail had meaning. In this video, we'll journey into the heart of these ancient structures, peeling back the layers to reveal the secrets they were built to hide. We'll explore how medieval architects used their craft to encode messages into the very fabric of these castles, from the strategic placement of towers to the symbolic carvings that adorn their walls. Together, we'll uncover the hidden meanings behind their designs, stepping into a world where walls speak and every corridor tells a tale. This is more than just a history lesson. It's a journey into the minds of the architects who built these monuments to secrecy and power. So, are you ready to listen to what the walls have to say? Let's step inside and discover the whispers of the past. The practice of embedding secrets into architecture didn't begin with medieval castles. It has roots that stretch back to ancient civilizations. The Egyptians, for instance, designed their pyramids not only as tombs but as monuments filled with hidden chambers and symbolic hieroglyphs meant to guide the pharaohs to the afterlife. Similarly, the Greeks and Romans incorporated sacred geometry and mythological symbolism into their temples, using architecture to convey spiritual and cultural ideals. Yet, medieval architects took this art to an entirely new level, transforming castles into multifaceted expressions of power, strategy, and mystery. When we think of medieval castles, we often picture towering stone walls and formidable battlements designed to repel invaders. But these structures were far more than just military fortresses. They were carefully crafted to communicate messages to both allies and enemies. The very design of a castle could signify the strength and dominance of its ruler, while subtle architectural details might hint at their ambitions or fears. For example, the height of a keep wasn't just about providing a vantage point. It was a statement of authority, visible for miles and designed to inspire awe. Even the layout of a castle's courtyard could reflect the social hierarchy, with certain areas reserved only for the elite, reinforcing the ruler's control over their domain. What's fascinating is how these builders wove symbolism into every aspect of the castle's design. Take the spiral staircases, for instance. They weren't just functional, they were built to twist in a specific direction, giving defenders an advantage in combat. But they also carried a hidden meaning, symbolizing the ascent to higher knowledge or spiritual enlightenment. Similarly, the placement of windows and arches often followed sacred geometric principles, subtly hinting at the divine right of the ruler to govern. These architectural choices weren't random. They were deliberate, designed to reinforce the legitimacy and authority of the castle's owner. As we explore these hidden layers, it becomes clear that medieval castles were more than just stone and mortar. They were living, breathing embodiments of the values and aspirations of the people who built them. By understanding the origins of this secretive architectural tradition, we gain a deeper appreciation for the complexity and ingenuity behind these iconic structures. Every corner, every stone tells a story if only we know how to listen. This intricate blend of function, symbolism, and communication is what makes medieval castles not just monuments of the past but enduring mysteries waiting to be unraveled. Symbols were the silent language of medieval castles, etched into every stone and woven into every design choice. Heraldic emblems, for instance, weren't just decorative. They were declarations of identity and lineage. A family crest carved above a gate or painted on a shield announced who ruled the castle and their heritage, serving as a visual reminder of their authority and alliances. Religious motifs, too, played a significant role, with crosses, saints, and biblical scenes often adorning walls and windows. These symbols not only reflected the piety of the occupants, but also reinforced their divine right to rule, suggesting that their power was sanctioned by heaven itself. But symbolism in castle design went far deeper than surface-level decoration. Intricate carvings and sculptures often told stories or conveyed messages to those who could decipher them. For example, a lion might symbolize courage and strength, while a dragon could represent protection or a warning to intruders. Even the placement of these symbols was deliberate. A carving of a knight slaying a serpent near the entrance might serve as a psychological deterrent, signaling to visitors that the castle's defenders were formidable and unyielding. Stained glass windows, with their vibrant colors and intricate patterns, often depicted scenes from history or mythology, subtly reinforcing the virtues and values the rulers wished to embody. What's remarkable is how these symbols were integrated into the castle's layout, creating a seamless blend of form and function. A spiral staircase might feature carvings of ascending vines, symbolizing growth and enlightenment, while the central courtyard could be designed as a microcosm of the world, reflecting the ruler's dominion over their land. Even the orientation of the castle itself often held symbolic significance, with certain towers or chambers aligned to the rising sun or prominent stars, suggesting a connection to the cosmos. These symbols weren't just for show, they were carefully crafted tools of communication. To the untrained eye, they might appear as mere ornamentation, but to those who understood their meanings, they spoke volumes about the castle's occupants and their intentions. By exploring these symbols, we uncover the hidden layers of meaning embedded in medieval architecture, revealing a world where every detail was part of a larger, more intricate story. This symbolic language transformed castles into more than mere buildings. They became living testaments to the power, beliefs, and aspirations of the people who built them. The arrangement of rooms and chambers within a castle was a masterclass in strategic design, blending practicality with layers of hidden meaning. The Great Hall, often the first space visitors encountered, was intentionally placed near the entrance to immediately awe and intimidate. With its high ceilings, grand fireplaces, and intricate decorations, this room served as a stage for the lord to display their wealth and authority. It was here that feasts were held, alliances forged, and justice dispensed, making it the heart of the castle's public life. But step beyond the Great Hall and you'd find a different world, one designed for secrecy and security. Private chambers were tucked away in the most inaccessible parts of the castle, often on higher floors or behind thick stone walls. These spaces were the domain of the lord and their family, offering a refuge from the prying eyes of guests and servants. Hidden rooms and passageways, sometimes concealed behind tapestries or within walls, allowed for covert movements and the protection of valuables. These features weren't just practical, they were symbolic, reinforcing the idea that the castle's rulers held knowledge and power that others could not access. The placement of rooms also reflected the social hierarchies of the time. The lord's quarters were often situated at the highest point of the castle, both for security and to symbolize their elevated status. Below them, the chambers of knights, advisors, and servants were arranged in descending order of importance, creating a tangible representation of the feudal system. Even the layout of kitchens, storerooms, and stables was carefully considered, ensuring efficiency while keeping the hustle and bustle of daily life out of sight from the lord's private spaces. This meticulous design extended to the castle's ability to facilitate secret communication. Narrow staircases and hidden corridors allowed messengers to move discreetly, bypassing the main thoroughfares. Secret meeting rooms, often tucked away in remote corners, provided a safe space for confidential discussions. Even the placement of windows and balconies could serve a dual purpose, allowing for private conversations or the exchange of messages without detection. Every element of the castle's layout was a testament to the ingenuity of its architects, who understood that power wasn't just about strength, it was about control, secrecy, and the ability to communicate without words. Whispering galleries and other acoustic marvels were among the most ingenious features of medieval castle design, transforming architecture into a tool for secrecy and surveillance. These spaces were meticulously crafted to manipulate sound, allowing whispers to travel incredible distances or to specific locations. Imagine standing in a curved chamber, your voice echoing softly yet clearly to someone standing dozens of feet away, all while remaining inaudible to anyone else in the room. This wasn't magic, it was the result of precise engineering, with walls designed to reflect and amplify sound in controlled ways. One of the most famous examples of this technique can be found in the whispering galleries of certain European castles, where conversations could be conducted in hushed tones across vast spaces. The dome-shaped ceilings and curved walls acted like natural amplifiers, directing sound waves along specific paths. These features weren't just for convenience, they were strategic, enabling lords and their advisors to share sensitive information without the risk of eavesdropping. But the acoustic design didn't stop at galleries. Vaulted ceilings, often found in chapels and great halls, also played a role in shaping sound. The arched structures not only added grandeur to the space but also enhanced acoustics, making it easier for speeches or commands to carry across the room. In some cases, architects even incorporated hidden listening tubes or small openings in walls, allowing occupants to overhear conversations in adjacent rooms. These subtle touches reveal the depth of medieval ingenuity, where every architectural element served a dual purpose. The science behind these designs was remarkably advanced for its time. Medieval architects understood the principles of sound reflection and resonance, applying them to create spaces that were as functional as they were beautiful. By manipulating the shape and materials of walls, ceilings, and floors, they crafted environments where whispers could travel like secrets on the wind. These acoustic techniques weren't just about communication, they were about control, ensuring that the castle's inhabitants always held the upper hand in the delicate balance of power and information. Hidden passages and secret rooms were more than just architectural quirks. They were lifelines in a world of constant uncertainty and danger. Built with meticulous care, these concealed spaces were designed to blend seamlessly into the castle's structure, often hidden behind everyday features like tapestries, bookcases, or even fireplaces. The craftsmanship involved was astonishing. False walls could be so perfectly integrated that even frequent visitors might never suspect their existence. These hidden areas served a variety of purposes, each tied to the survival and strategy of the castle's inhabitants. During a siege, they provided crucial escape routes, allowing defenders to flee or move undetected. Some passages led to underground tunnels, connecting the castle to nearby forests, rivers, or even neighboring buildings, ensuring a safe exit if the fortress was breached. Others were used to store valuables or provisions, safeguarding them from looters or rival factions. But perhaps the most intriguing use of these secret spaces was for clandestine meetings. In an era of shifting alliances and political intrigue, privacy was paramount. Secret rooms offered a secure location for lords, advisors, or conspirators to discuss sensitive matters without fear of interception. The very existence of these spaces speaks to the paranoia and constant vigilance that defined medieval life. The construction of these hidden features was a masterclass in ingenuity. Architects employed clever tricks like movable panels, rotating staircases, or concealed levers that only the initiated could operate. Some passages were even booby-trapped to deter discovery, further underscoring the lengths to which medieval builders went to protect their secrets. These designs weren't just functional, they were psychological tools, reinforcing the idea that the castle's defenses extended beyond its visible walls. The legacy of these hidden spaces reminds us that castles were as much about strategy and survival as they were about power and prestige. Every concealed passage, every secret room, was a testament to the resourcefulness of those who lived in an age where danger was always just around the corner. Light and shadow were not just elements of medieval castle design, they were tools of power and perception. Architects of the time understood that controlling how light entered a space could shape emotions, convey authority, and even manipulate intruders. Windows were meticulously positioned to flood certain areas with natural light, while leaving others shrouded in darkness. A throne room bathed in sunlight, for example, would amplify the grandeur of the ruler seated there, while dimly lit corridors could evoke a sense of foreboding for anyone unfamiliar with the layout. Chapels often featured large, ornate windows designed to filter light in ways that created a divine atmosphere. Stained glass panels not only told biblical stories, but also transformed sunlight into a kaleidoscope of colors, enhancing the spiritual experience for worshippers. In contrast, spaces like dungeons or storage areas were intentionally kept dark, reinforcing their utilitarian or ominous purposes, but the use of light and shadow went beyond aesthetics. In times of attack, the deliberate manipulation of light could disorient invaders. Narrow windows and alternating light patterns made it difficult for attackers to judge distances or spot hidden defenders. Similarly, the flickering light of torches in dark hallways could create confusing shadows, making it harder for intruders to navigate or anticipate threats. Even the placement of mirrors and reflective surfaces played a role, redirecting light to illuminate specific areas or create the illusion of larger spaces. These techniques demonstrated a deep understanding of both human psychology and practical defense. The interplay of light and shadow in castle design was a testament to the creativity and resourcefulness of medieval architects, who used every available tool to enhance both the beauty and functionality of their creations. Now, let's explore how water became a vital element in the design and defense of medieval castles. From moats to wells, water shaped the way castles were built and operated, offering both practical benefits and symbolic meaning. Water features in medieval castles were far more than practical necessities. They were carefully designed elements that carried profound symbolic weight. Take moats, for example. While they served as formidable defensive barriers, deterring attackers and slowing their advance, they also symbolized a clear boundary between the sacred space of the castle and the outside world. Crossing the moat was not just a physical act, it was a transition into a realm of order, power, and divine authority. This separation reinforced the castle's role as a bastion of control and protection in a chaotic world. Fountains, often found in courtyards or gardens, were equally laden with meaning. These ornate structures were frequently adorned with sculptures of mythological figures, animals, or biblical scenes, each chosen to convey a specific message. A fountain might depict a lion, symbolizing strength and nobility, or a scene from a religious text, reminding visitors of moral virtues. The sound of flowing water added to the sensory experience, creating a tranquil atmosphere that contrasted with the castle's often harsh exterior. Wells, too, were more than just sources of water. They were vital to the castle's survival, providing a reliable supply for drinking, cooking, and hygiene. But wells also carried spiritual significance. Water was associated with purity and renewal, and wells were sometimes blessed or marked with protective symbols to ward off evil. In some cases, they were even linked to local legends or miracles, adding to their mystique. These water features illustrate how medieval architects blended practicality with symbolism, turning everyday elements into expressions of power, faith, and artistry. They remind us that even the most utilitarian aspects of castle design were imbued with deeper meanings, reflecting the values and beliefs of the people who built and inhabited these remarkable structures. Now, let's turn our attention to the role of gardens in castle design. Far from being mere decorations, these spaces served as both retreats and statements of status, offering insights into the medieval worldview. Castle gardens were far more than serene retreats or decorative spaces. They were extensions of the castle's architecture, rich with symbolism and meaning. Every plant, tree, and flower was carefully chosen for its deeper significance. Roses, for instance, symbolized love and purity, while herbs like rosemary represented remembrance. These gardens were not just about aesthetics. They were living tapestries that wove together themes of power, spirituality, and the natural world. The layout of these gardens often mirrored cosmic or spiritual principles. Circular designs, for example, were used to symbolize the divine order of the universe, while labyrinths and winding paths invited contemplation and meditation. Walking through these spaces was not just a physical journey but a symbolic one, encouraging visitors to reflect on their place in the world and their connection to something greater. Hedgerows and mazes added an element of mystery, creating secluded areas where private conversations and rituals could take place. These spaces were often reserved for the elite, offering a rare sense of privacy in a world where life was largely public. Gardens became stages for whispered alliances, romantic encounters, and even political plots, their beauty and tranquility masking the weighty decisions made within them. Gardens also served as a bridge between the human and natural worlds. They reminded castle inhabitants of the cycles of life and the fleeting nature of power and wealth. The changing seasons, marked by blooming flowers and falling leaves, mirrored the rise and fall of dynasties. This connection to nature reinforced the castle's role as a microcosm of the world, where order and harmony were maintained through careful design. By exploring these gardens, we gain insight into how medieval architects and gardeners used nature to enhance the castle's narrative. These spaces were not just escapes from the castle's stone walls, but integral parts of its story, blending beauty, symbolism, and function into a cohesive whole. Now, let's turn to the use of geometry in castle design, where precise lines and shapes conveyed yet another layer of meaning and power. Sacred geometry was more than a design choice. It was a language of spirituality and power etched into the very stones of medieval castles. Architects meticulously calculated proportions and alignments to reflect the divine order of the cosmos. The golden ratio, a mathematical principle believed to represent perfect harmony, was often used to determine the dimensions of walls, windows, and courtyards. These precise measurements were not arbitrary. They were meant to connect the earthly realm of the castle to the heavenly realm above, reinforcing the ruler's divine right to govern. The alignment of castles with celestial bodies further emphasized this connection. For example, certain towers or entrances were positioned to face the rising sun on significant dates, such as solstices or equinoxes. These alignments were not just symbolic but practical, as they marked the passage of time and seasons, integrating the natural and spiritual worlds into the castle's design. The interplay of light and shadow within these spaces created dynamic visual effects, adding to the aura of mystery and authority. Geometric patterns were also woven into the castle's decorative elements. Intricate stone carvings, tile mosaics, and stained glass windows often featured shapes like circles, triangles, and pentagrams. These patterns were not merely ornamental. They carried deeper meanings, symbolizing concepts like eternity, balance, and the interconnectedness of all things. Walking through these spaces, one couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and reverence, as if the castle itself was a sacred temple. This use of sacred geometry extended to the layout of entire castle complexes. The placement of buildings, courtyards, and gardens followed a carefully planned grid, mirroring the order of the universe. This design wasn't just about aesthetics, it was a statement of power and control. By aligning the castle with cosmic principles, rulers demonstrated their ability to impose order on both the physical and spiritual worlds. Through these architectural choices, medieval castles transcended their role as mere fortresses. They became symbols of divine authority and cosmic harmony, designed to inspire both fear and admiration. The next layer of this intricate design was the use of defensive features, which not only protected the castle but also conveyed the ruler's strength and dominance over their domain. The towering walls and imposing battlements of medieval castles were not just tools of defense. They were masterpieces of psychological warfare. Built to overwhelm anyone approaching, these features sent a clear message. This fortress was impenetrable, and its ruler was untouchable. The thickness of the walls, sometimes reaching over 20 feet, was a testament to the resources and engineering prowess of the time. These structures were designed to withstand sieges, but they also stood as monuments to the ruler's strength and dominance over the land. Towers rising high above the surrounding landscape served both strategic and symbolic purposes. Positioned at key points along the walls, they offered a vantage point for archers and sentries, ensuring no threat went unnoticed. Yet their height and grandeur also made them visible from miles away, a constant reminder of the ruler's presence and power. The keep, the central tower of the castle, was often the most fortified and imposing structure. It housed the lord or king and their most valuable treasures, symbolizing the heart of their authority. Battlements, with their distinctive crenellations, were not just functional for defense, they were a visual statement. The alternating high and low sections along the walls allowed defenders to fire arrows or drop objects on attackers while remaining protected. The silhouette of these battlements against the sky created a striking image, evoking both fear and admiration. They were a reminder that the castle was a place of both strength and sophistication, blending practicality with artistry. Moats and drawbridges added another layer of symbolism. The moat, often filled with water, served as a physical barrier to slow down attackers, but it also represented the boundary between the outside world and the ruler's domain, emphasizing the castle's exclusivity and power. The drawbridge, which could be raised or lowered, was a literal and figurative gateway. When raised, it signified that the castle was closed off, untouchable. When lowered, it invited only those deemed worthy to enter. These defensive features were not just about survival, they were about making a statement. Every stone, every tower, every detail was carefully crafted to project an image of invincibility and authority. They reflected the technological advancements of the time, showcasing the ruler's ability to harness innovation for their benefit. But they also revealed something deeper, the desire to leave a lasting legacy, a fortress that would stand as a testament to their reign long after they were gone. Art played an equally important role in castle architecture, transforming these fortresses into more than just military strongholds. Through intricate carvings, murals, and sculptures, castles became canvases for storytelling and expressions of cultural identity. These artistic elements did more than decorate. They conveyed messages about the ruler's lineage, ideals, and aspirations, blending beauty with purpose in every detail. Art was more than decoration in medieval castles. It was a language of power and prestige. Frescoes and murals painted on the walls of great halls and chapels told stories of heroic deeds, religious devotion, and the lineage of the ruling family. These vivid images were not just for admiration, they were reminders of the castle's legacy and the authority of its inhabitants. Tapestries, often woven with intricate detail, served a dual purpose, insulating cold stone walls and displaying scenes of battles, hunts, or allegorical tales. They transformed bare spaces into narrative canvases, inviting visitors to read the stories woven into their fabric. Sculptures and reliefs added a tactile dimension to castle interiors and exteriors. Stone carvings of mythical creatures, saints, and heraldic symbols adorned doorways, fireplaces, and pillars, creating a sense of grandeur and sophistication. These works were not only visually striking but also rich in symbolism. For example, a sculpture of a lion might represent bravery and strength, while a depiction of a saint could signify piety and divine favor. Every artistic element was carefully chosen to reinforce the values and identity of the castle's lord or king. Even the layout of spaces within the castle was designed to showcase art. The Great Hall, where feasts and gatherings took place, often featured the most elaborate decorations. Here, art served as a backdrop for displays of wealth and power, impressing guests and reinforcing the ruler's status. Private chambers, though more intimate, were also adorned with art that reflected the tastes and aspirations of their occupants. From the grandest hall to the smallest chapel, every space was infused with meaning through its artistic adornments. Color played a vital role in this visual storytelling. Vibrant hues were used to draw attention and convey significance. Rich blues and golds, often derived from expensive pigments like lapis lazuli and gold leaf, symbolized wealth and divine favor. Red, associated with valor and passion, might dominate scenes of battle or love. Even the choice of materials, marble, stained glass, or gilded wood added layers of meaning, reinforcing the messages embedded in the art. Together, these artistic elements transformed castles into more than just fortresses. They became living expressions of the people who inhabited them, reflecting their values, ambitions, and the culture of their time. Every brushstroke, every chisel mark, and every woven thread contributed to a larger narrative, ensuring that the castle's story would endure for generations to come. The materials chosen for castle construction were more than just practical, they were a statement of intent, an unspoken language that communicated the ambitions and values of those who built them. Stone, the most common material, symbolized permanence and strength. Quarried from the surrounding land, it rooted the castle in its environment, tying it to the earth and the community it protected. The texture and color of the stone mattered too. Finely cut ashlar blocks, smooth and uniform, spoke of wealth and precision, while rougher, irregular stones conveyed a sense of rugged endurance. Wood, often used for interior features like beams and paneling, brought warmth and a sense of craftsmanship to the castle's colder, stone-heavy spaces. Carved wooden details in doorways, ceilings, and furniture added layers of artistry, transforming functional elements into works of beauty. Metals like iron and bronze were used for fixtures, hinges, and decorative elements, their durability and luster reinforcing the castle's aura of resilience and sophistication. Perhaps the most striking material was stained glass, which transformed light into a medium of storytelling. Windows in chapels and great halls depicted biblical scenes, heraldic symbols, and moments of historical significance. When sunlight streamed through these panes, the vivid colors cast a kaleidoscope of hues across the interior, creating an atmosphere that was both sacred and awe-inspiring. The glass itself was a marvel of medieval craftsmanship, its vibrant pigments and intricate designs showcasing the skill of artisans and the wealth of the castle's patrons. Even the choice of flooring carried meaning. Polished marble suggested opulence and refinement, while simple stone or tiled floors kept spaces practical yet elegant. Rugs and carpets, often imported from distant lands, added splashes of color and texture, their designs reflecting cultural exchange and the castle's connection to wider trade networks. Every material, from the stone underfoot to the glass overhead, was selected with purpose. Together, they wove a narrative of power, piety, and permanence, allowing the castle to speak volumes without uttering a word. Understanding this material language opens a window into the medieval mind, revealing how architecture was used to convey ideas that transcended the written word. Towers were not just towering structures, they were the focal points of a castle's design, embodying both utility and symbolism. Rising high above the walls, they served as vantage points for surveillance, allowing defenders to spot approaching threats from miles away. Their height was a strategic advantage, offering clear views of the surrounding landscape and ensuring that no movement went unnoticed. But towers were more than just watchful sentinels. They were also a testament to the castle's power and dominance. In medieval architecture, height equated to authority. The taller the tower, the more imposing the castle appeared to both allies and enemies. This verticality was a statement of control, a visual reminder of the lord's reach and influence. The keep, often the largest and most central tower, was the heart of the castle's defense and the residence of its ruler. It was a fortress within a fortress, designed to withstand sieges and protect the most valuable inhabitants. Beyond their defensive and symbolic roles, towers were also spaces of daily life. They housed living quarters, chapels, and storerooms, blending practicality with grandeur. Spiral staircases, narrow and winding, were a common feature, designed to hinder attackers while providing access to different levels. The upper floors often held the most prestigious chambers, reserved for the lord and their family, with large windows that offered both light and panoramic views. The placement of towers within the castle complex was deliberate. Corner towers strengthened the walls, providing overlapping fields of fire for archers. Gate towers protected the main entrance, the most vulnerable point of the castle, ensuring that anyone attempting to enter was met with formidable resistance. Circular towers, a later innovation, were more resilient to siege engines. their curved surfaces deflecting projectiles more effectively than square designs. Even the architectural style of towers carried meaning. Decorative battlements and crenellations weren't just ornamental. They mimicked the look of fortifications, reinforcing the castle's martial image. In some cases, towers were adorned with intricate carvings or heraldic symbols, blending artistry with authority. Towers, in their many forms, were a microcosm of medieval ingenuity and ambition. They were tools of defense, symbols of power, and spaces of daily life, all rolled into one. Understanding their role helps us see how architecture was used not just to protect, but to project an enduring legacy of the medieval world. Gates and entrances were the lifelines of a castle, serving as the crucial points where the outside world met the fortified interior. These access points were designed not just for passage but as strategic barriers, carefully engineered to control movement and deter invaders. The main gate often stood as the most elaborate and imposing feature of the castle, a blend of architectural grandeur and military ingenuity. To enter a castle, one would first encounter a drawbridge, a movable bridge that could be raised or lowered to allow or deny access. When raised, it created a chasm between the castle and the outside, making it nearly impossible for attackers to cross. The portcullis, a heavy iron or wooden grating, added another layer of defense. It could be dropped quickly to block the entrance, trapping intruders or halting their advance. These mechanisms were not just practical, they were psychological deterrents, signaling that entry was a privilege, not a right. Beyond the gate lay the gatehouse, a fortified structure packed with defensive features. Arrow slits allowed archers to fire on approaching enemies, while murder holes in the ceiling enabled defenders to drop stones, boiling water, or other projectiles on those below. The gatehouse was often a maze of twists and turns, designed to slow down and confuse attackers, giving defenders time to react. The design of gates and entrances also carried symbolic meaning. They were the castle's public face, the first impression for visitors and enemies alike. Ornate carvings, heraldic symbols, and grand arches were common, showcasing the wealth and status of the lord. For allies, these details conveyed welcome and hospitality. For foes, they were a reminder of the castle's strength and the consequences of challenging it. Gates were not just points of entry but also social hubs. They were where travelers arrived, messengers delivered news, and goods were exchanged. The gatekeeper, often a trusted figure, played a key role in managing access, ensuring that only those with permission could enter. In times of peace, the gate was a place of bustling activity, a connection between the castle and the wider world. Understanding the role of gates and entrances gives us insight into the dual nature of castle design, both welcoming and defensive. They were portals of protection and prosperity, embodying the delicate balance between openness and security that defined medieval life. Gates and entrances were more than just functional features. They were powerful symbols, marking the transition from the chaotic outside world to the ordered realm of the castle. Every detail, from the carvings to the materials, was carefully chosen to communicate messages of strength, protection, and authority. Heraldic symbols, often displayed prominently above the gate, announced the lineage and power of the Lord, while religious inscriptions invoked divine protection. These designs weren't just decorative, they were statements meant to impress allies and intimidate enemies. The very act of passing through a castle gate was a ritual, a moment of transformation. Visitors would cross from the unpredictable wilderness into a space governed by rules and hierarchies. The gate served as a threshold, separating the known from the unknown, the safe from the dangerous. This symbolism was reinforced by the architecture itself. Narrow passageways, low ceilings, and multiple doors forced visitors to slow down, emphasizing the significance of the transition. For the castle's inhabitants, the gate was a reminder of their security. Its strength and complexity were a testament to the Lord's ability to protect them. For outsiders, it was a barrier, a physical manifestation of the castle's exclusivity. Even allies had to navigate the gate's defenses, proving their trustworthiness before gaining access to the inner sanctum. The design of gates also reflected the dual nature of medieval society, welcoming yet wary. During times of peace, they were open, allowing commerce and communication to flow freely. But in times of conflict, they became impenetrable fortresses, sealing the castle off from the outside world. This adaptability was key to their success, embodying the castle's ability to balance hospitality and defense. Beyond their practical and symbolic roles, gates were also spaces of ceremony and ritual. Important events, such as the arrival of distinguished guests or the departure of knights on a quest, often began and ended at the gate. These moments underscored its significance as a boundary, a place where the castle's power and prestige were on full display. As we move from the gates to the courtyards, we'll explore how these open spaces served as the heart of castle life, connecting private and public areas while providing a stage for both daily routines and grand events. Courtyards were the beating heart of medieval castles, spaces where the practical and the symbolic intertwined. These open areas were where daily life unfolded, from bustling markets to solemn ceremonies. Every courtyard was designed with purpose, reflecting the castle's social structure. The grand central courtyard, often the largest, was reserved for noble activities, tournaments, feasts, and official gatherings. Smaller, more secluded courtyards might house gardens or serve as private retreats for the lord and his family. The layout of a courtyard communicated hierarchy and order. Servants and workers had their designated areas, while guests and nobles moved through spaces that emphasized their status. Even the materials used in the courtyard's construction spoke volumes. Cobblestones or gravel might mark servants' paths, while smoother, more decorative surfaces indicated spaces for the elite. This careful division reinforced the social order, reminding everyone of their place within the castle's walls. Courtyards also brought a touch of nature into the fortress, offering a stark contrast to the stone walls and towers. Gardens provided not only beauty but also practical benefits, growing herbs for medicine and cooking. Fountains and wells were focal points, serving as gathering spots and sources of fresh water. These elements softened the castle's imposing appearance, creating a balance between strength and serenity. Beyond their practical uses, courtyards were stages for display and ritual. When a lord received visitors, the courtyard was often the first space they encountered, setting the tone for their experience. Here, the castle's wealth and power were showcased through architecture, decoration, and ceremony. Knights might parade through the courtyard before a campaign, their armor gleaming in the sunlight, while the sound of trumpets announced the arrival of important guests. As we step from the courtyards into the inner chambers, we'll explore how staircases played a vital role in guiding movement through the castle. Their design wasn't just about functionality, it was another layer of symbolism, shaping how people experienced the space and reinforcing the castle's hierarchy. Staircases in medieval castles were far more than just pathways between floors. They were carefully crafted elements of storytelling and social control. The grandeur of a staircase often mirrored the importance of the spaces it connected. A sweeping, ornate staircase leading to the Great Hall or the Lord's Chambers wasn't just a functional feature, it was a deliberate statement of power and prestige. Every step a visitor took reinforced their awareness of the hierarchy within the castle. The spiral design of many staircases served multiple purposes. Practically, it saved space and provided structural strength, but it also added an air of mystery and intrigue, Climbing a tightly wound staircase with its dim lighting and uncertain turns created a sense of anticipation. For those unfamiliar with the castle, it could feel like stepping into a labyrinth, heightening the drama of the journey. This design also had defensive advantages. Narrow, spiraling staircases made it easier for defenders to hold their ground against attackers, as the tight turns limited the effectiveness of swinging weapons. Hidden staircases were another layer of the castle's architectural secrets. These discreet passages allowed servants and guards to move through the castle unseen, ensuring the smooth operation of daily life without disturbing the occupants. They also provided escape routes in times of danger, a subtle reminder that even the most luxurious castles were designed with defense in mind. The very existence of these hidden paths reinforced the idea that castles were places of both public display and private intrigue. The direction of the staircase's spiral was even symbolic. In many castles, staircases were designed to spiral clockwise, giving defenders the upper hand in combat. A right-handed defender descending the stairs would have more room to swing a sword, while an ascending attacker would be at a disadvantage. This thoughtful detail highlights how every element of castle architecture, even the seemingly mundane, was imbued with purpose and meaning. As we move from staircases to chapels, we'll see how these sacred spaces were integrated into the castle's design. Chapels were not just places of worship, they were reflections of the Lord's piety, status, and connection to the divine, blending spiritual and political authority in a single harmonious space. Chapels within medieval castles were more than just quiet corners for prayer. They were profound expressions of the Lord's faith and power. These sacred spaces were often strategically placed in the heart of the castle, symbolizing the centrality of spirituality in both personal and political life. A well-appointed chapel wasn't just a place to worship, it was a statement of the Lord's piety and a reminder to visitors of their moral obligations. The architecture of these chapels was designed to inspire awe, with soaring ceilings, intricate carvings, and panels of stained glass that filtered light into a kaleidoscope of colors. The altar, usually the focal point of the chapel, was richly adorned with gold, silver, and precious stones, reflecting both devotion and wealth. Surrounding it, you'd often find statues of saints or biblical figures, each chosen to reflect the Lord's personal beliefs or to honor a patron saint. These artistic elements weren't just decorative, they were meant to elevate the spirit, guiding those who entered into a state of reverence and contemplation. For the castle's residents, the chapel was a private sanctuary, a place to seek solace or make decisions under divine guidance. It was also a stage for important rituals, from daily prayers to significant ceremonies like weddings, christenings, and funerals. These events reinforced the Lord's authority and the community's shared faith, blending the spiritual with the social. Chapels also served as a subtle reminder of the divine right to rule. By maintaining a grand chapel, the Lord demonstrated their alignment with the church and the divine order, reinforcing their legitimacy as a ruler. This connection between spiritual and political power was a cornerstone of medieval society, and the chapel was its physical manifestation within the castle walls. Moving from the sacred to the practical, let's explore how fireplaces played a crucial role in the daily life of a medieval castle. Far from being mere sources of warmth, fireplaces were central to the castle's function, providing heat for large halls, kitchens, and private chambers. Their design and placement reveal much about the priorities and ingenuity of medieval architects. Fireplaces in medieval castles were far more than practical features. They were powerful symbols of comfort and security. In an era where the cold could be both harsh and unrelenting, the warmth of a fireplace was a sign of hospitality, welcoming guests and residents alike. The design of these fireplaces often mirrored the importance of the spaces they occupied. In the grand hall, you'd find towering hearths adorned with intricate carvings and heraldic designs, showcasing the Lord's wealth and generosity. These monumental fireplaces weren't just functional, they were statements of prestige, drawing the eye and anchoring the room's decor. In contrast, private chambers featured simpler fireplaces, reflecting their more intimate purpose. Yet even here, the hearth was central to daily life, providing warmth and a place to gather for private conversations. Fireplaces also played a crucial role in the kitchen, where they were essential for cooking and preserving food. The presence of a well-built fireplace in every key area of the castle underscored its importance in maintaining both physical comfort and social cohesion. Beyond their practical uses, fireplaces served as focal points for gatherings. In the Great Hall, people would cluster around the hearth to share stories, conduct business, or simply enjoy each other's company. This natural gathering spot fostered a sense of community and belonging, reinforcing the social bonds that held medieval society together. The warmth of the fire became a metaphor for the Lord's protection, offering both physical and emotional shelter to those within the castle walls. The symbolism of fireplaces extended even further, representing safety and continuity. In a world where threats could come from invaders or the elements, a well-maintained fireplace was a reassuring presence. It was a constant reminder of the Lord's ability to provide and protect, a tangible expression of their role as a caretaker of the castle and its inhabitants. As we shift our focus from the hearth to the windows, we discover another layer of architectural ingenuity. Windows in medieval castles were not merely openings for light and air, they were carefully designed elements that balanced security, practicality, and beauty. Windows in medieval castles were masterpieces of design, blending practicality with symbolism in ways that enriched both daily life and the castle's overall aesthetic. Far from being simple openings, they were strategically placed to maximize their usefulness and beauty. In the Great Hall, windows were often large and adorned with intricate stone tracery, allowing natural light to flood the space while showcasing the Lord's wealth and taste. These elaborate designs weren't just decorative, they served as a visual representation of the castle's importance, signaling to visitors that they were entering a place of power and refinement. Smaller, more functional windows were found in private chambers and service areas, providing light and ventilation without compromising security. These windows were often narrow and positioned high on the walls, making it difficult for intruders to enter while still allowing air to circulate. In kitchens and storerooms, windows were essential for maintaining a healthy environment, preventing the buildup of smoke and odors that could otherwise make these spaces unbearable. One of the most fascinating aspects of castle windows was their role as a connection to the outside world. In an era where travel was limited, windows offered a glimpse of the surrounding landscape, reminding inhabitants of the world beyond the castle walls. For the Lord and his family, this view was a constant reminder of their domain, reinforcing their authority and responsibility. For others, the windows provided a sense of openness, breaking the monotony of life within the fortress. The placement of windows also had a tactical purpose. In defensive areas like towers and battlements, windows or arrow slits were designed to allow archers to shoot at attackers while remaining protected. These narrow openings were a testament to the ingenuity of medieval architects, who found ways to balance security with functionality. As we shift our attention to vaults and arches, we uncover another layer of architectural brilliance that shaped the structure and atmosphere of medieval castles. These elements were not just structural necessities, they were expressions of craftsmanship and artistry that transformed the castle's interior into a space of grandeur and elegance. Vaults and arches were the unsung heroes of medieval castle architecture, transforming stone and mortar into soaring spaces that inspired awe and wonder. These structural elements solved one of the most pressing challenges of the time: how to create large, open interiors without compromising the stability of the building. By distributing weight evenly, vaults and arches allowed for grand halls, expansive chapels, and towering ceilings that would have been impossible with flat roofs. But their impact went far beyond practicality. They were also expressions of artistry and ambition, shaping the very character of the castle. Take the ribbed vault, for example. This intricate design featured intersecting stone ribs that formed a patterned ceiling, creating a sense of rhythm and harmony within the space. The ribs not only strengthened the structure, but also added a decorative flourish, turning the ceiling into a canvas of geometric beauty. In chapels and great halls, these vaults often drew the eye upward, symbolizing aspirations toward the divine and reinforcing the Lord's connection to higher powers. Arches played a similarly vital role. Pointed arches, a hallmark of Gothic architecture, not only supported heavy stone walls but also created a sense of verticality and lightness. This design allowed for taller, more graceful buildings, with slender columns and larger windows that flooded the interior with light. The result was a space that felt both grand and inviting, blending strength with elegance. The construction of vaults and arches was a testament to the ingenuity of medieval architects and builders. Each stone had to be precisely cut and placed to ensure the structure remained stable, a process that required both mathematical precision and artistic vision. The masons who worked on these projects were not just laborers, they were craftsmen, shaping stone into forms that would endure for centuries. Beyond their technical brilliance, vaults and arches carried deep symbolic meaning. They represented the triumph of human ingenuity over the limitations of nature, a theme that resonated deeply in a time when faith and reason were intertwined. In a castle, these structures were a constant reminder of the Lord's power and the skill of those who served him. As we explore the role of inscriptions in castle architecture, we'll see how these carefully chosen words added another layer of meaning to the stones themselves, turning the castle into a living record of history and identity. Inscriptions were more than mere decorations. They were powerful tools of communication, etched into the very fabric of medieval castles to convey messages of authority, faith, and identity. These carefully crafted words, often in Latin or other formal languages, transformed walls, arches, and furnishings into permanent records of the Lord's values and beliefs. Positioned in strategic locations, they were designed to inspire awe, instill respect, or offer comfort to those who lived within or visited the castle. Take, for instance, inscriptions found around chapel entrances or altars. These often featured biblical verses or prayers, reinforcing the spiritual purpose of the space and reminding visitors of the divine authority behind the Lord's rule. In great halls, inscriptions might celebrate the Lord's lineage or achievements, asserting his right to power and his connection to a noble heritage. Even mundane items like chests or door frames could carry messages of protection, invoking blessings or warding off evil spirits. The placement of these inscriptions was no accident. They were positioned to be seen by specific audiences, whether it was the Lord's family, his guests, or the workers who maintained the castle. In a time when literacy was rare, the presence of written words carried an air of exclusivity and sophistication, further elevating the status of the castle and its occupants. The craftsmanship behind these inscriptions was equally remarkable. Skilled artisans meticulously carved each letter, ensuring clarity and beauty even in the most challenging materials. The result was a seamless blend of art and function, where the written word became an integral part of the castle's design. As we shift our focus to the role of furniture, we'll see how these everyday objects were far more than practical necessities. Crafted with care and imbued with symbolism, they played a vital role in shaping the atmosphere and identity of the medieval castle. Furniture in medieval castles was far more than just a place to sit or sleep. It was a statement of power, wealth, and identity. Take the throne, for example. Often placed on a raised platform in the Great Hall, it was the focal point of the room, symbolizing the Lord's authority and his role as the ultimate judge and protector. These thrones were not just seats, they were masterpieces of craftsmanship, adorned with intricate carvings, precious metals, and sometimes even gems. The message was clear: this was the seat of someone who commanded respect and loyalty. Tables, too, were imbued with meaning. The high table, where the Lord and his closest allies dined, was positioned at the head of the hall, separate from the lower tables where servants and lesser guests sat. This physical separation reinforced the social hierarchy, reminding everyone of their place within the castle's order. Even the design of the tables, often decorated with symbols of the Lord's heraldry or scenes from history, served to tell a story of lineage and legacy. Beds were another powerful symbol. In a time when most people slept on simple straw pallets, a grand bed was a luxury few could afford. Castle beds were often elaborate, with carved wooden frames and rich fabrics like velvet or silk. These beds were not just for sleeping, they were spaces for receiving guests, holding private meetings, or even conducting business. The very act of inviting someone into the bedchamber was a gesture of trust and intimacy, reserved for only the most important allies or family members. Even smaller pieces of furniture, like chests or stools, carried significance. A chest might be carved with protective symbols or the family crest, serving as both a practical storage item and a declaration of identity. Stools, though humble, were often placed in precise locations to indicate rank or favor. Every piece of furniture, no matter how seemingly ordinary, was a part of the castle's larger narrative, reinforcing the social order and the Lord's authority. As we turn our attention to textiles, we'll see how fabrics played an equally vital role in shaping the atmosphere and identity of the medieval castle. From tapestries that told epic stories to curtains that offered privacy and warmth, these materials were more than just decorative, they were essential elements of the castle's design and function. Textiles in medieval castles were not just decorative elements, they were storytelling tools, status symbols, and even practical necessities. Take tapestries, for instance. These large, intricate fabrics were often hung on the walls of grand halls, serving several purposes at once. On a practical level, they helped insulate the stone walls, keeping the spaces warmer during cold months. But their true power lay in their ability to tell stories. Tapestries were like the comic books or movies of their time, depicting biblical scenes, epic battles, or legends. For a largely illiterate population, these woven narratives were a way to share knowledge and values. They also reinforced the Lord's authority by showcasing his wealth and taste. Heraldic banners were another key textile, fluttering from towers and walls to announce the Lord's presence and lineage. These banners were more than just flags, they were declarations of identity. The colors, patterns, and symbols on them were carefully chosen to represent the family's history and alliances. In a world where loyalty and reputation were everything, these banners were a constant reminder of the Lord's power and the alliances he commanded. Even smaller items like cushions and rugs carried meaning. While they added comfort and color to often stark interiors, their patterns often featured heraldic motifs or symbolic designs. A cushion embroidered with a lion or a fleur-de-lis wasn't just a place to sit. It was a subtle nod to the family's strength or their connection to nobility. These textiles transformed the castle's interior into a tapestry of identity, telling the story of who lived there and what they stood for. As we move from textiles to lighting, we'll see how the play of light and shadow shaped the mood and function of these spaces. From flickering torches to elegant chandeliers, lighting was another layer of design that influenced how people experienced the castle. Lighting in medieval castles was far more than a practical solution for darkness. It was an art form, carefully crafted to shape the atmosphere and reinforce the castle's narrative. Imagine walking through a dimly lit hall, the flicker of candles casting long, dancing shadows on the stone walls. This interplay of light and shadow wasn't accidental. It was deliberate, designed to evoke a sense of mystery and grandeur. Candles and lanterns were strategically placed to highlight key architectural features, like a grand staircase or a carved wooden throne, drawing the eye to symbols of power and prestige. Fireplaces played a dual role, providing warmth and a soft, glowing light that made large spaces feel more intimate. In the Great Hall, the hearth was often the central focus, not just for its practical use but for its ability to create a gathering place. The crackling fire would illuminate the faces of those seated nearby, fostering a sense of community and connection. Lanterns, often hung from iron brackets or carried by servants, moved light through the castle, creating a dynamic environment. As these lights shifted, so did the mood, bright and welcoming in one moment, shadowy and mysterious in the next. This intentional use of lighting added layers of drama to everyday spaces, turning the castle into a stage where every scene felt purposeful. Even the materials used in lighting fixtures carried meaning. Brass or silver candlesticks, intricately designed lanterns, and ornate chandeliers were more than functional items. They were status symbols. The quality and craftsmanship of these objects reflected the wealth and taste of the castle's lord, further reinforcing the narrative of his power and sophistication. The art of illumination extended beyond the castle's interior. Torches lined the battlements, casting an eerie glow over the walls and creating a striking silhouette against the night sky. This not only served as a defensive measure, but also projected an image of strength and vigilance to anyone approaching from a distance. As we conclude this exploration of castle design, it's clear that every element, architecture, textiles, and lighting was meticulously planned to tell a story. These spaces were more than functional. They were expressions of identity, power, and artistry. The legacy of medieval castle design endures, reminding us how carefully crafted environments can shape our experiences and perceptions, even centuries later. The architecture of medieval castles stands as a timeless testament to the ingenuity and creativity of their builders. These structures were far more than mere fortresses. They were masterpieces of design, carefully crafted to convey power, spirituality, and identity. Every stone, every beam, and every carving told a story, weaving together a narrative that spoke to the values and ambitions of the people who inhabited them. From the grand halls adorned with intricate tapestries to the quiet, hidden passages that whispered of secrecy and strategy, every element of a castle's design was imbued with meaning. Take, for instance, the symbolic carvings that adorned doorways and ceilings. These weren't just decorative, they served as visual reminders of the castle's purpose and the beliefs of its occupants. A lion might symbolize strength and courage, while a fleur-de-lis hinted at divine favor and royal authority. Even the placement of windows and the design of staircases were deliberate choices, shaping how people moved through the space and what they experienced along the way. By exploring these architectural secrets, we uncover a deeper understanding of the medieval world, a time when every detail mattered and nothing was left to chance. These castles were not just places to live or defend. They were expressions of identity and ambition, designed to leave a lasting impression on all who encountered them. Today, these ancient designs continue to inspire us, reminding us of the enduring power of thoughtful, intentional architecture. Whether it's the soaring arches of a cathedral or the sturdy walls of a fortress, the legacy of medieval craftsmanship lives on, shaping our modern landscapes in ways we might not even realize. What do you think about these design secrets? How do they resonate with you? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more explorations into the hidden histories that have shaped our world. There's always more to uncover, and we're just getting started.